We are busy with the luxury of things. Their number and multiple faces bring. To us confusion we call knowledge, say. God created the world, pinned night to day. Made mountains to weigh it down, seas, to wash its face, living creatures with pleas. The ancestors of prayers seeking a place in this mystery that floats in endless space. God set the earth on the back of a bull, the bull on a fish dancing on a spool of silver light so fine it is like air, that in turn rests on nothing there, but nothing that nothing can share. All things are but masks at God's beck and call. They are symbols that instruct us that God is all. Though the title may seem to suggest that this is a prayer or supplication, Attar's invocation is more like a declaration, a statement of truth that reminds us to see past the self-inflated significance of our own lives in order to recognize the vast oneness connecting the entire universe. It shifts our perspective from thinking that we are at the center of the world to one that highlights the multiplicity of the world, and more importantly, how that multiplicity converges into the all-encompassing one. The poem starts out with a simple but brutally honest statement. We are busy with the luxury of things. Their number and multiple faces bring. To us confusion we call knowledge. We are often preoccupied with things of this world, from the material to the immaterial. These innumerable things are fickle. They have multiple faces, and they exist everywhere, distracting us from contemplating the true nature of our existence and the oneness behind everything. The knowledge that Attar describes isn't just limited to the conventional definition of knowledge. Since the more knowledge one has, the more likely they are to have a better life, it can be understood that the use of the word knowledge in this poem refers to all things we pursue in the hopes of living a better life. But sometimes we think that something will enhance our life, when in fact it brings greater misery and suffering instead. Sometimes we think that something will give us knowledge, but it only brings confusion. Take for a moment formal education, as symbolized by the coveted degree. It's one of many things we often become busy with and that distracts us from remembering our true essence. We often associate these pieces of paper with immense knowledge. And while they do impart some knowledge of the world onto us, one can argue that their main purpose is not to help us become wiser, calmer, and more compassionate human beings, but rather to help our individual selves attract better jobs and more money. There's nothing inherently wrong with these things, the degree, the job, or the money, But too often does our society teach us that these are the main prizes in life. That the more degrees we have and the more money we make, the more successful we are. And to make matters worse, it equates success with happiness, individual accomplishment with collective harmony and well-being. Virtually all who enter this educational system unconsciously pursue the coveted degree, but lose their real selves along the way. They become more confused as to their real identity, purpose, and nature, even though they attract more and more success. And for some, this can even lead to extreme anxiety, depression, and despair, as they one day wake up questioning the ultimate value of all this personal success. Attar knew this really well, given his background of having a strong education and successful pharmacy business. But while the mind and pockets were full, the soul was empty. Attar seemingly had it all until the encounter with the fakir left him floored and on toward the path of real knowledge. Through his own experience, Attar learned that our pursuit of these worldly things, whether physical or mental, don't really illuminate us or show us how to live a better, more enlightened life. The more we try to enhance our own image through the things of this world, the more blind we become to the ultimate truth that everything in the universe, especially our own mind, body, and soul, is all just a reflection of the One. We are all at Source's beck and call, and yet we don't realize it. And to expand our perception of this, Attar encourages us to put aside the false notion that only our individual and highly egoic lives are important. He encourages the shift from me to us, creating a more inclusive and holistic world, one that enables us to see the symbols or reflections of God everywhere. These symbols exist right in front of us, if we only step away from our busy lives and minds to take notice. For example, listen carefully to the next few lines of the poem. God created the world, pinned night to day, made mountains to weigh it down, seas to wash its face, living creatures with please. When we identify with our limited egoic self, we are so small compared to the entire world, the mountains, the seas, and the internal dance between the sun, the moon, and every celestial object. Each of these miracles can produce immense joy and bliss for us if we only step back to reflect. Our life simply would not exist without any of these miracles. So why do we forget or disregard them so easily? The answer could be that our ego does not want us to remember them. Doing so would endanger its fragile existence and need to always be at the center of attention, often at the expense of others. The ego is not willing to let go of the individual so that it may melt with the collective. You can even say that the ego loves the world of duality, the world of multiplicity, seeing union with the beloved as the greatest threat to its survival. Because if we melt our individual identity and sense of self to become one with all, the ego no longer has anything to compare itself to. It no longer has anything to put down in order for it to be raised up. And so it naturally disintegrates, and in its place arises a deep sense of calm and peace. Only by raising our consciousness, by becoming more still and aware, can the secrets of the universe be revealed to us. And in turn, we recognize that our ego is not the end-all, be-all. Rather, clinging to this ego at all costs is what leads to deep personal suffering. Imagine, though, what would happen if we let go of all we thought we were and embrace the truth that we are part of something much bigger. So big, in fact, it makes our world look minuscule. Because what Attar is showing us is that not only is our world small, but the world itself is small. While a mystery that can never be fully comprehended, Earth is nothing in relation to the endless space it floats in. Symbolically, this could be interpreted as meaning that our own ego-driven lives, or the world, is nothing compared to the cosmic consciousness, or the endless space, that we live in and are a part of. We are both in endless space and the endless space ourselves, as the soul has no physical or logical limits. No matter how big we think the world is, and more aptly, how big we think our world is, it simply is nothing when compared to the grand scheme of things. If we believe we are just the things we own, follow, and believe in, then we are very tiny and insignificant. But if we see ourselves as one with the universe, as one with God, the vastness of our soul begins to surface, and we become enraptured by an opening of the heart. We achieve a deep and lasting state of bliss that cannot be achieved through any other means but to melt the ego and become one with the beloved. In the end, we will always require certain things in order to live our life, whether that's a degree, money, job, or home. Life is not meant to free oneself from all the things in the universe. Rather, it's meant to free our attachment to these things, to free us from our desire to grab and hold on to these things in the hopes of feeling good about ourselves. Because after all, these things are just masks that inflate the ego and cause more separation between us and the beloved. They are not true reality. Can you just imagine then what would happen if we remove these masks?